It's the start of a new era in Nashville with a new GM and a new coach. This team is looking for consistency, and Kimmel of Locked On Predators joins us to talk about that and all things Preds next on the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And you can also find us now on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On NHL. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. It is great to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Predators, Ann Kimmel. And an interesting start to the season for the Preds. Seems to be very up and down right now. What's causing this inconsistency so far?
I think a lot of it is the adjustments that the Nashville Predators are having to make with a brand new head coach who is implementing a very different style of play for the Predators. Plus, they've had such a change in the roster. Gone are Matt Duchene, gone is Ryan Johansson, and they've brought in Ryan O'Reilly and Gus Nyquist, Luke Shen, but he's been out on injured reserve. So there's been so many changes. And I think part of what we're seeing with the inconsistency is that the Nashville Predators are having to unlearn some things as they're trying to learn some things. So when they start to sort of struggle in a game, you can see periods of time where they kind of fall back into their old style of play. And I think time is going to start making that a little bit better for them.
So what is the change in style of play for people who aren't following the Preds regularly?
So I know the Venn diagram of people who follow musical theater and people who follow hockey has a very small center. But the best way I can describe it is it's like the musical Hamilton. You have Alexander Hamilton, who is go, go, go. And you have Aaron Burr, who waits for his opportunities. Nashville used to play a style of game where they really waited to create opportunities. And Andrew Brunette has come in, and he is very Alexander Hamilton. This is a team that needs to be playing with speed, fast in transition, put shots on net. It is very much a go, go, go style of play, not quite as defensively focused as the Predators of the past under the past two coaches have been. So it's a very different way of thinking the game. Even, veteran players like Roman Josi and Filip Forsberg are saying, we have to think this game a little bit differently because we're used to playing with a different mindset and a different style of play. So that's really a big transition. It's a big difference for the team.
Now, you mentioned Ryan O'Reilly, one of the newcomers. He has been on fire early on this season. What has made him so effective, and how is that helping the team?
The best way I can summarize Ryan O'Reilly and the time that the Nashville Predators have had with him is that he is everything that Barry Trotz said he was. Now, when a GM goes out and signs somebody, they're going to tell you all the great things about them, but you have to wait and see for yourself, is this hype or is this real? Ryan O'Reilly is the real deal. He is doing everything that Barry Trotz paid him to come in and do. He is one of those players who is continually working to make his game better. He's already played 1,000 games. He hit that milestone this week, but he is hungry to improve his game. And as he does that, he has the ability to make other players better. And that's something that the Predators have needed. They've needed the guy who makes his line mates and teammates better. And it's not just on the ice. Ryan O'Reilly is a temperature changer in the locker room. He is driven. He has a very high work ethic. I think he sort of sets a culture in there, and he wants to win games. This is somebody who does not want to lose. And I think you are seeing the Predators in a much more positive mindset through what could be a difficult transition, because Ryan O'Reilly is one of the leaders that is positive and hungry, and it's making a difference for the team on and off the ice.
How about UC Saros? How is he adjusting to what certainly is a style that will expose him to some more shots than maybe he's used to facing?
Yeah, this is true. UC Saros does have a different perspective this season as the Predators are playing faster and transitioning more. UC Saros, we always kind of joke that he's a crock pot and not a microwave. He usually takes some time to warm up, as the season begins. And we've seen that in a couple of games. But here is the thing. Saros is so important to the Nashville Predators through this transition because he covers a number of sins. He really can make saves when the defense has kind of lapsed that maybe other goaltenders can't. So he's so important to the team. He has had a couple of games that were a little bit shaky, but he really is going to be a difference maker. And I think he's a key part of why the Predators feel like, hey, we can make this style change right now because we have him in net.
Who are some of the players who are having more of a struggle adjusting to this new system?
Yeah, there are a couple of players that, we really haven't seen yet how they're going to fit in. One of them is first-round draft pick Phil Tomasino. And Tomasino has had an interesting trajectory with the Predators. He was a full-time Nashville Predator 2 seasons ago, but did not make the team out of camp last season. Was called up at the end of the season and played well while the Predators were down with veterans and was a part of that kind of late push to try to make the playoffs, which they didn't, but they really gave it all they had. Tomasino made the team out of camp, but he's really had some trouble adjusting, I think, to incorporating a fast game, which is something he's good at, with also balancing it with playing a 200-foot game, because you can't just be fast and offensive. You also have to be able to play a 200-foot game, protect the puck and be able to make smart defensive plays. So this is one of those players that I think is still trying to figure out how his game is going to work well in this new system. He's been a healthy scratch at times, but the Predators aren't giving up on him yet. And I think just with more time, you're going to see him get more comfortable.
And how about the defense core? Because it's got to be a big change for them as well.
It is a huge change for them. And it's also been kind of a different start to the season because they were really counting on Luke Schenn, and he played one game and has been injured. The defense has actually been excellent, which is a credit to them because, like you said, this is a very different style of play where they're going to have to do more with maybe less time. And they've done a really great job with that. Roman Josi and Dante Fabro are reunited. They played together several seasons ago and have done well. But it's great when you have veterans like Ryan McDonagh and Tyson Barrie in there too, because they've kind of seen everything, and Ryan McDonagh's played with a team like Tampa Bay, who does play kind of a faster paced game while he was with them. So I think that they're holding their own really well, considering all of the changes that they're facing with this new system.
So what does this team need to do to become more consistent, to reach that next level and fight for a playoff berth this year?
I think so much of it are small things. Time will help a lot, but I do think there are small things. If you look at the games the Predators have played statistically, they've been competitive in all of these games. Now they're still 5-6, but they're competitive. But the difference is there are little moments of the game where maybe they're making a mistake. And if they can clean up some of those little things and really stick to what they're doing, and that's hard to do when you're not getting the wins, but you feel like you're playing well, you kind of feel like you have to over adjust, but they need to clean up some little things. And I really think they're going to start seeing the reward for what they're doing. So I think keep doing what they're doing, keep practicing this new system, keep learning this new system, building chemistry with new teammates, and then just cleaning up little things. And I think this Predators team may surprise some people.
All right. Should be an interesting ride for sure. And why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you and your co-host on social media?
You can find the podcast on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at LO_Predators. Of course, we are on YouTube and on any podcasting platform that you're at. You can find me on X at AnnK_Mama on Ice, and my co-host Nick Morgan at _NS Morgan.
All right. And always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. And the app is just so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And look, you can bet on the NFL, college football, the NBA, and you can use your knowledge of the National Hockey League as well on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.